reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Greetings wherever you are. Welcome to TalkTainmentRadio.com. We do go where you go on the world's greatest radio. You are now in touch with the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is Radio the Way It Should Be Heard. We have a very good subject today, speaking with Mr. Neely Fuller. On the subject of the day's topic will be this. Are you practicing justice, or are you talking just to be talking? Are you doing that? Mr. Fuller will address your calls and Gmails, because this is a program of thought, speech, and action. And now it's time for action. You can get in contact with the show by calling 1-877-932-9766. We would prefer that you go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage. I'm looking for my sheet of paper that I messed up, but we would prefer you do that. And then when you do that, you want to click on Listen Live. That's what you want to do. Listen live to the program here through TalkTainmentRadio.com. The Wednesday is the place where you want to go, and that's where Mr. Fuller's show is, the Compensatory Concept. And it also replays at 10 p.m. Tonight in case you missed the show and you want to hear it in its entirety. You can go there. You can also go to Facebook.com/TalkTainment and get the show. And you can go to the YouTube channel. Now, this is by memory, so I hope I don't mess this up because I'm subject to make a mistake. But go to the YouTube channel, and I believe you type in the word Talktainment. Then you scroll down to the word radio. Hit the space bar. Thank you. Hit the space bar, type in the word radio, and then Talktainment number 2. And there, you can look at the program and listen to the program live. But we would prefer you go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage and hit Listen Live. Listen Live. We're going to really push that. TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage, Listen Live, where you can hear and see the whole program. Okay, let me introduce to some and present to others Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Mr. Fuller, how are you this morning?
I'm still learning.
Okay, loud and clearly, too. Okay. A decision was made to approach this subject because you speak about the code every week live that you are on about justice. And I get many calls, many Gmails, even off the air. And the question came up, well, you know, you're talking about, not you, but people, you know, you're talking about this. And you're asking Mr. Fuller all these questions. You know, you have thoughts, and then you're talking. But now, what are you doing? Are you practicing justice? And I thought that would be a good question to have the people address. And you have mentioned many ways that a person can do this. And then you also said this, that the first problem that we have to solve is the race problem. Could you expound on that? At least someone asked me to ask you that. Could you expound on that and why that is?
Well, on the back of the textbook, because people have asked me about the myself, the author, so I say my significance is all connected with the system of racism, which is white supremacy. And so my very existence is in that system. And I was born into the system. There's only one system of government on the planet, and that is the system of racism, as applies to me. And so I am subject to that government 24 hours a day, wherever I may be on the planet, in all areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. War meaning any type of conflict in which people are harmed, bodily harm, mentally harm, property is destroyed, etc. So the system of racism governs all of this in my individual and existence, and in all of my connections with other individuals. And according to what I have observed and what I wrote about in the textbook for victims of white supremacy, is that all people classified as non-white are dominated by this particular system. So that means if there is a system that should not be, and certainly a system that's designed to dominate and mistreat people, that should not be. And this royal system called racism, which is nothing but basically a royalist system, is based on being royal based on color. And some people are classified as being royal, and other people are classified as being non-royal. And people of color are non-royal. They are not members of the universal or the planetary royal family. You have to be white to be that, classified as white, and treated as white. There are a lot of non-white people who look like they're white, but they are not classified as white and not treated as white, so they are not members of the royal family either, because the white supremacists determine who is going to be in what they call the white establishment and what we might call the white race, which is the only race. Sometimes people say there's a human race. That's a contradiction. You couldn't be human and be racing against other humans. That, you know, what kind of context do you put that in? I mean, if you either practicing humanity or being humane to people, or you're not. Being humane means what? Using that word that this program starts off with. First of all, being a person that practices justice. Now, justice cannot be practiced in a system of white supremacy. You can only do your best to practice it on a day-to-day basis as an individual, because you're already a prisoner of war. You're a prisoner of a war in which you are in captivity, and so far we have been losing that war. The war is not lost until you stop fighting. Okay? So people of color have not lost the war until they just give up altogether and say, well, just do what you want to. We're not going to fight it anymore. It's too exhausting. But most, either directly or indirectly, most of the non-white people try to resist. However, most of the time, very feebly, do we try to resist this system that is in place, rock solid in place. The world's business is based on mistreating people of color in the form of this thing called white supremacy that somebody dreamed up a long time ago, and it turned out to be the most efficient system and the most powerful system for mistreating people ever thought up in the minds of people on this planet. So no major problem that exists, getting back to what is on the back of the book, the textbook for victims of white supremacy. The second statement in that is that no major problem that exists between the people of the known universe can be eliminated until racism, which is white supremacy,
yes,
is eliminated. You can't solve any problem in any area of activity. I don't care what you do. It's going to turn out to be a mess. The way everything is right now in 2018, if you don't consider solving the problem of conflict based on color, the color of people's skin, in trying to solve that problem. Now, anyone who will observe it or study it or try to practice it, try to just go about doing whatever they're going to do, they're going to run into that color issue. One way or another, directly and indirectly, white or non-white, you're going to have to deal with it. And so people usually just deal with it by saying, well, it's there and it's in place, and nobody knows how to solve it. Nobody's figured out how to do it yet, and they're correct about that. So it's just something you have to live with. And then other people say, not so. I don't believe that. I believe it should be eliminated and replaced with something called justice, which means guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. But in answer to the question, can justice be practiced in the system of white supremacy? The answer is no. That's impossible. Based on what? Based on logic. You can't have a system that is committed to non-justice and then think that you can have justice in a system that is set up to produce non-justice.
Okay.
It doesn't compute.
Okay. 1-877-932-9766 is the number that you can call. Phone lines are now open. Mr. Fuller, in your humble opinion and not a suggestion, why aren't people, in your humble opinion, why aren't people practicing justice? Now, they are thinking, they are speaking, but when it comes down to the acting part, which is part of the thought, speech, and action, they're not doing that. In your opinion, why isn't this happening?
Because no people activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war is set up for that. There's nothing in place now that can guarantee that. It's guaranteed to do just the opposite, based on mistreatment of people. Mm-hmm. You can't have justice and mistreatment of people. That's contradictory right there. You can't have people, you can't have a system that's designed to mistreat people based on color, and being a person of color is a crime in the system of white supremacy.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We who are classified as non-white are all convicted criminals. We can't say that we are not criminals when the white supremacists, who are the most powerful people on the planet, say that we are criminals. You dark people, you people who have color in your skin, have committed a crime, the crime of being born with color in your skin, and you should be punished for having committed that crime. And we are going to guarantee that you are punished in all of the areas of activity and every move that you make. So you can't have justice in a system that's designed to mistreat people, because that's the commitment.
Okay.
In the system of white supremacy, that's why we're white supremacists. We're not white supremacists, that's just an abstract slogan.
Yes.
It's to push people around who have color in their skin, to mistreat them, enslave them, beat them, and dream up ways to make their existence one of agony.
Okay.
And we enjoy that.
All right.
We get pleasure out of that. We get fun, we get glory, and we get material comfort from that.
Okay. Now,
and that's a pretty good deal.
Okay.
Somebody made that decision, and that's the greatest idea for manipulating people ever thought of. All of the other isms, all of the other religions put together have no power over that idea so far, according to all evidence.
Okay, now, with that you just said being said, then why write the book? Why write the compensatory code concept?
Try to produce justice. See, just because justice hasn't been produced doesn't say that people shouldn't try, but justice is so absolute. You either have it or you don't. See, so even though you can say, I'm trying to produce justice, and that's how people should say it, they shouldn't say that they're actually practicing justice, because that's impossible.
Okay.
As long as you have the system of white supremacy in place. But you can try to eliminate it. It's just like it's impossible, you might say, to go to the moon until you go to the moon. All right? You're either there or you're not.
Yes.
Now, if a person walks around and say, well, I'm trying to do everything I can to get to the moon, well, they can be commended for their effort and should be. Because, if going to the moon is something that's logical and something constructive, you should be trying to do it, whether it's going to the moon or baking some bread.
Okay.
Okay? Or planting crops. The crops are either planted or they are not.
Okay.
Okay? So you can say, well, the question really is, are you trying to produce justice?
Okay.
Okay?
Now.
Are you trying? Because no one has ever done it. It's never been done.
Okay.
In the history of, in recorded history.
Correct. Now, with that being said, how can you produce something that you just said doesn't exist?
Oh, because things are produced that doesn't exist all the time, and justice is no different.
But if you don't know what
I just gave the illustration.
Yeah.
For thousands of years, probably millions, I don't know, people looked at the moon and say, you can't get there. I mean, it's too far away. There's no way to get there. There's nothing that you can come up with that can get there. You got to carry your own air there. How do you carry air? We can't carry air. You carry it in the palm of your hand. I mean, how much air can you carry? Can you put it in a sack? I mean, that's all we have available here. We got some buckets and whatnot. Do you carry the air there? No, I mean, even if you get there, you're not going to get there because you'll run out of air before you get there.
Yes.
So, but somebody sat down and said, well, the moon is there, and we want to get there. We say we want to. We keep saying it for millions of years. We'd like to go up and take a look. And there might be a way of doing it.
Okay.
So somebody said, well, maybe you can seal up some buckets. Put the air in some buckets and seal up the bucket and use the air sparingly as you get there and have enough to get there and come back. Say, okay, so we'll figure that out. And then somebody probably did, and apparently they did. And then they say, yeah, but you still got to get there to carry the bucket. I mean, the bucket, you don't have enough air, but you need other things. You need a way to get there. So somebody said, well, maybe we can make some type of device, some type of carrying coach or something, or train or something that can get us there.
Okay.
So they kept working on it.
Yes. So
justice is the same way.
Yes, sir.
Because here is the logic, according to counter-racist logic. Right. Anything set up by people, any problem that is made by people can be solved by people. Because whatever created the universe gave us the ability to make problems.
All right.
And whatever set up the universe gave people the power to solve the problems that they make.
Okay.
See, that's a people-made problem. That problem didn't come, by some divine order, even though there are some people who say that it did. No. Is that a problem? It is a problem. Why? Because it mistreats people.
Yes.
All right? So, therefore, did people make the problem? Yes. Somebody dreamed up that thing about mistreating people based on color. Absolutely. That came from a person.
Absolutely.
Or a group of persons. Okay? So a group of persons or people, period, including the people who started the problem, can simply say, we'll just unwind what we did. That's all.
Yes.
We'll just unwind it. We know how it's put together because we put it together. It's not a mystery.
1-877-932-9766 is the number that you can call, and the key phrase to that that you said was logic. Talktainmentradio.com is a 24/7 no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyles, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here's one that I would like to share with you. It's called All in the Family with S. Yolanda Robinson. Matter of fact, why don't you call in and ask her what the S stands for. But this show is exclusive to TalkTainmentRadio.com, and we would like for you to go to the home page and click on Programs, and there you will see a listing of all the shows that Talktainment Radio has, and you can select one. Select All in the Family with S. Yolanda Robinson. And all those programs are with TalkTainmentRadio.com. That is radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. NEELY Fuller Jr. And today we are discussing, what are you going to do? Are you practicing justice? And what are you going to do? What is your contribution to it? Or are you just talking just to be talking? Mr. Fuller is here to address your questions. Let's go to the Gmails. Okay. This one says, Mr. Fuller, why would people on this planet who are driven by glory, personal gain, and non-constructive fun be motivated to producing justice?
By being motivated to produce justice. That's the equation that's really missing. And the people who are running everything, the white supremacists, they don't want people to even think in terms of that. They will talk about justice, but they don't even give it a definition. They don't give people a picture of what it looks like. And they certainly don't give the details of how to get there, because that means eliminating racism, because you're not going to eliminate any major problem, period, among the people of this planet. I don't care how hard you try, without eliminating racism first, because racism is the root of all of the problems that are going on the planet here in 2018. That's the root. Now, you'll hear terms like communism is a problem, socialism is a problem, capitalism is a problem, Islamic extremists are the problem, Christian fanatics are the problem, on and on and on and on. The root of most problems, the root of all the major problems on this planet in 2018 is the problem of the existence of racism in the form of what we call white supremacy. All roads lead to that. You can start out trying to solve the food problem, trying to solve the weather problem, trying to solve the problem of immigration. Just name it. Name any problem. People not getting medical care. Name it. It's going to lead right to the race problem every time. Some people who are not, you might say, keenly aware, or, on the knife's edge, you might say aware, who are classified as white, have set out to do good things. I mean, according to them, and many, many, many millions of them are very sincere. We need to straighten out the world. I mean, the world has many problems, but too many of them, and so far the evidence shows that just about all of them, I mean, that in large numbers, I'll say, the largest number, they back down when it comes to, we can't solve that problem without solving the race problem. Here we go again. Every time we get ready to do anything, it looks all nice and set up and pretty and wonderful. It's a beautiful idea. We got all the details all figured out of how everybody's just going to be, have everything that they need, and there's going to be harmony among people and whatnot. But then they say, but somebody says from the back of the room, you might say, but what about these Negroes? What about these dark people? How are they going to fit into this grandiose equation? And then they say, that's right. That's right. Dad, burn it. I mean, yeah, we got, I mean, that cleaning up the water over there, I mean, and whatnot, that sounded like a good idea until you stop and think about, we made the water that way because we got to keep those people all messed up physically. I mean, we poison the water. I mean, so if we're going to take the poison out of the water, we won't be mistreating them. I mean, my goodness. And they'll be able to think and go to school and have some sense and whatnot, and not be staggering around, I mean, wondering why they're so sick and can't think, and going to children nodding off in school and whatnot. No, we put the poison in the water. I mean, because that's what we want them to do. Because we got to have this fun, we got to have this glory, and we got to get things done like we want it done, when we want it done, and without any back talk. I mean, in a system of justice, you get people asking questions and whatnot. We want a category of people who they better not ask no questions about nothing, or they'll get whipped, or stomped down, or knocked down, or killed, so that we can get things done for our convenience. And it's just that way. And so that's what racism is all about. It's just another form of mistreating people for the sake of producing something that everybody wants, and that is fun, glory, and material comfort. And that's what the white supremacists have figured out, that for people classified as white, that's a fabulous way and a very simplified way of getting it and guaranteeing that you will get it. And they don't want to give up on that. And it's understandable when you look at it from their viewpoint. Why give up something that's working for some hypothetical justice that no one has ever really seriously tried?
Mm-hmm. So
that's just a natural tendency.
So the water crisis in Flint, according to what you just said, could be construed by people in particular that the white supremacists is working for them by poisoning the water.
Well, if the people who, I'll put it this way, I'll just try to use some logic there, because logic is the way to go.
All right.
If I had to drink water that I was giving to somebody else and I knew the water was poisoning those people, and I had to drink the same water, and I was dying from it, and I knew I was being poisoned by it, I have a tendency to think that I would do something about that water. I would marshal all of my resources, because I have to have water. See, but the question is, why aren't the people who are supposed to be solving this problem, why aren't they drinking the same water?
Yes.
That they say that those people shouldn't be drinking. They should be drinking that same water. Does everybody drink the water? That'll give you some incentive to get that water thing straightened out. You say you can't straighten it out. Well, what kind of water do you drink while you straighten it out? Yes. While you're laid back, taking your time. Would you be laid back? No, you'd be laid out. If you were drinking that poison water, the water that you say is poison. See, there's nothing that gives people incentive like when they have to suffer, like the people that they inflict suffering on.
So then those that are in charge do not want to solve this problem, because if they wanted to solve that problem, it would be addressed? I'm asking.
Using logic, I would think so.
Okay.
Why? Because the problem can be solved. That's why.
So then they don't really want to solve it.
They don't. The only reason that the white supremacists don't solve a problem that they have demonstrated they can solve, because there is such a thing as having clean water. They have demonstrated that. So why don't they just do it? That's all.
Okay.
It just comes down to just doing it. Okay. And if it's not done, it means because they don't want to do it. That's the only conclusion you can come to.
That's right. That's what I was trying to do. Talktainmentradio.com. We go where you go. Check us out on 94.1 WGRN. Podcasts are available. All you have to do is download the Talktainmentradio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. Stay right there. Phone lines are open, and Mr. Fuller will continue to answer your questions.
Welcome to the 6th Annual Cultural Wall Music Festival as we celebrate the Harlem Renaissance of the East Side on Saturday, July 14th and 15th at 91 Jefferson Avenue from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. featuring the Novo Arts Group, Mojo Flow, Jazz Patrol 2.0, and the Urban Jazz Coalition. And the Praise in the Park on Sunday from 2 to 8 p.m. with the Four Mints, Milton Ruffin featuring Quan Howe. You don't want to miss the 6th Annual Cultural Wall Music Festival. For more information, call 614-253-1880. Brought to you by University East Hospital, State Auto Insurance, the Columbus Communicator, Who's Who Columbus, Making a Difference Inc., and Columbus City Park and Rec, the United Way of Central Ohio. Free parking at Columbus State and State Auto. Celebrating the history of the East Side. The 6th Annual Cultural Wall Music Festival. Saturday, July 14th and 15th at 91 Jefferson Avenue from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. For more information, call 614-253-1880.
Are you ready for a high school that allows you to work at a place that is right for you? Are you ready to earn a certification in healthcare, business, or manufacturing while achieving your high school diploma? Then you are ready for Life Skills High School, a free public school option for high school students 16 to 21 years old. Learn more about your free high school educational options at lifeskillshs.org or call them at 1-800-888-7992. Life Skills High School, education that fits your life.
If you or someone you know is abusing drugs and or alcohol and want to stop the abuse, contact APDS at 1409 East Livingston Avenue. Office hours are 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily and 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday. APDS is certified by the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services and primarily funded through the Adam H. Board. Fees are based on your income and Medicaid is always accepted. For more information, call 614-253-4448.
McGruff the Crime Dog here. Let's hear from an identity thief.
Identities are easy to catch online. I send people an official-looking email pretending to be their bank or credit card company and ask them to confirm their personal information. Books them every time.
Safeguard your personal information on the phone, online, and especially at home, because half of identity theft occurs by someone you think you know. Keep your identity to yourself and take a bite out of crime. Learn more from the National Crime Prevention Council at ncpc.org.
A message from this station, the U.S. Department of Justice, Crime Prevention Coalition of America, and the National Crime Prevention Council.
Hey, wake up. You can't dream your way into college. There are actual steps you need to take, steps that go beyond just getting good grades. So if you're serious about college, visit knowhowtogo.org today. Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
This is Al Edmondson, owner of a Cutter Brother Rest Barbershop. I'm calling on all barbers and beauticians. It's time for us to unite as one. We can serve our communities better together. Join the Ohio Black Barber Beauty Network. For more information, visit www.obbn.org or call 614-427-3226 to get more information. Be the change that you want to see in your community. Join our network.
We thank you for your emails and your feedback. And we are working very hard for you. We have supported the Compensatory Code since 1975. We believe that it is the only system of thought, speech, and action that enables us to move in the correct direction to work toward the production of justice. But right now, we need your help. If we're going to continue the Compensatory Concept show each week, we need your support. Now, we thank you and deeply appreciate what you've already donated. Please help us to continue to get the Compensatory Code system of thought, speech, and action out. Please donate today. Go to TalkTainmentRadio.com and hit the yellow donate button on the front page. Donate today. We appreciate any amount that you can give. We thank you so much.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. Go ahead. Make my day.
You got the power.
TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby, and I am the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. We are accepting your phone calls. 1-877-932-9766. 9766. Phone lines are open. If you would like, you can also access the show by going to the YouTube channel, type in the word Talktainment, hit the space bar, type in the word radio, scroll down to Talktainment #2 live on YouTube, where you can hear and watch the live broadcast. While you are there, hit the subscribe button and the like button. Our preferred way, though, is for you to go to the TalktainmentRadio.com homepage. Click on Listen Live. It's not up there now, but Listen Live. And there you can have an opportunity to see Mr. Fuller's show Wednesday on the podcast. Wednesday, the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Listen to it. And many of you are doing it, and we would like to have more. And for those who miss it, if you missed it or missed any part of it, the program is re-aired, I believe, at 10 p.m. You can do that, so we want you to do that. And also you can go to facebook.com/Talktainment, where you can also hear the program. So we have many different ways that we can do this program. 1-877-932-9766. Phone lines are open. You've got the power. Go ahead, exercise it. We're speaking on justice, or what are you doing? We have your thoughts, got those, and we have heard you with speech. But what are you doing? What are you going to do to help produce justice, as Mr. Fuller has talked about? This writer has said about people are driven by personal gain and glory and non-constructive fun to be motivated. Why would they be motivated to produce justice, especially if this system, Mr. Fuller, is all they've ever known? Mr. Fuller, you said before, this racist social system weakness is its wickedness, but yet people all around the world continue to be mistreated and subjugated every day with impunity, with indirect and direct violence that never seems to cease. What is this?
Well, it's the royalist idea. What is the royalist idea? That some people are born better than others. In other words, you're supposed to have a blank check if you're born in a certain category to just go around and do whatever you want to do, and everybody else has to hop around and do what you tell them that they should be doing. And they can make you do it. Or else what? Or else you'll be harmed grievously. And that's mostly what people are taught. You go in any school or you drive through any city, and most of the people are being taught what in the schools? Most of the messages that are being sent are messages of conflict. In school, you're talking about what? The heroes are all what, for the most part? Warriors. Some type of warrior, some type of person that does harm to people, all right, for whatever reason. Some harm is being done. Somebody's got to be wounded. Somebody's got to be killed, all right? In a school, you're taught this. Many of the poems, many of the stories that are told, the histories, when you open a history book, most of it is about the glory of conflict between people, not people trying to figure out a way to be in harmony with each other, but the heroes and the sheroes are people who are involved in some type of conflict. Turn on your television. It's not just the news, but they have what they call soap operas that have been around in the Northwestern Hemisphere. And what is most of it about? Conflict. Conflict between whom? Conflict involving whom? People. People in conflict. People in anguish. People in agony. People wanting to go after other people and do things to them on account of they're dissatisfied about something or another. And so you get a steady diet of this. In the first grade in elementary school, it's all about conflict.
Yes.
Yes. And then when you drive through the cities and whatnot, you have what they call circles in some cities and whatnot. And in the center of that circle will be some person, usually a male person, usually white in the northwestern hemisphere, on a horse, and carrying what? A sword.
A sword.
Not a book. I mean, that's supposed to define wisdom or a guide for people, say, well, I see that statue over there in the public square. Who is that? And what's that book he's got in his hand? Or what's that book she's got in her hand? And say, well, that's a book of guidance. What type of book of guidance? She's got an image of a book, but is there a real book that, And so at least that'll be guiding you to a book somewhere.
Yes, sir.
That you can go and get that book that you see that lady in that statue is carrying. So you look at that. But a lot of the ladies in statues, including, and a lot of the males in statues are carrying swords.
Yes, sir.
Not some type of words of guidance about how you should interact with people, but a message is being sent that you interact with people with some type of weapon.
Yes, sir.
A dagger, a sword.
Okay.
All right, might have one in their hand and they got it pointed up toward the air. They got another one around their waist. Stuck in their waistband or something like that.
Okay.
And so that's sending messages of what? Doing violence to people. Of doing harm to people. So when you get a steady diet of this all the time, and it's glorified, and they make blockbuster movies where everything is just being all torn up. Nothing's being put together. Things are being torn up. Pyrotechnics, they call it. And then when you have some holidays, like you just had one, what was that all about? Fireworks. Fireworks? What's the fireworks all about?
Right.
Oh, bombs bursting in air.
I was getting ready to say that.
Well, why do you have bombs bursting in air? That's killing people, boy.
Glorifying violence. Yes, sir.
You get a great feeling. You saw somebody's head torn off, and man, that's a rush. Man, that's better than cocaine ever could get.
Wow.
Man, there's a head goes sailing through the air, torn loose from a body.
All righty.
That was very carefully put together by what we call a creator. But we took care of that, didn't we? Ha, ha, ha. Let's have a beer.
Let's go to the phone lines. All right, caller, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
How you doing, Mr. Fuller, Mr. Bobby? This is Brother Muko from Baltimore.
Yes, sir.
Where we hold the compensatory constructive action discussions every Saturday. We're doing it this Saturday, hopefully at noon. Last Saturday, my brother Rael was holding it down while I was doing constructive actions in the city. But today, Mr. Fuller, I have a question for my care unit in Baltimore and really probably all the care units around the world. Can you please expound on why it is important for the victims of racism, white supremacy, to have attention, discipline? And what I mean by that is staying on topic, not being deviated from the topic of countering or eliminating racism, white supremacy.
Okay. Mr. Fuller?
Well, that's a question that's often asked. So, broadly speaking, and also right to the point. It's broad and it's right to the point. Is this constructive or non-constructive? That goes right to the heart of what this discussion is supposed to be about today. The production of justice. All you have to do is just keep that in mind all day long. Is this going to be in the non-constructive category, or is it going to be in the constructive category? Because there's no such thing as in between. If you sit down to eat a meal, is that meal going to have a constructive effect on your body, or is it going to have a non-constructive effect on your body? Because there's no such thing as in between. It's going to do one or the other. What you're putting in your mouth when you take that fork and put it in that food is either going to do something to you that is constructive or non-constructive. And that's the same way with everything. If you're getting ready to go somewhere, where are you going? And what are you going to do when you get there? And that thing that you're going to do when you get where you're going, is it going to have a constructive result, or is it going to have a non-constructive result? This is keeping it kindergarten simple, so you never get lost. See, this is not confusing at all. Everything is either going to have a constructive result or a non-constructive result. If you say, I think I'll call up Kamani. I'll call up Susie. I'll call up Evelyn. Okay? All right, you got instant communications there in your hand here in the Northwestern Hemisphere more than ever. Okay? First thing you should think about, whatever I am going to say, is it, first of all, necessary? Now, that's going to hurt a lot of people there. Boom, right out the gate.
Right.
Absolutely.
Is this call I'm fixing to make, is it necessary? Necessary for what? To produce a constructive result that I can measure, or is it going to be non-constructive? Because if it's not going to produce a constructive result that you can measure, then when I get off this phone, it's going to have a constructive effect on whomever I'm calling, or on both of us. We're going to gain from it something very constructive. And if it's vague, if you're not very sure of this, or you're not really sure why you're making the call, code says don't make it.
Yes.
Now, what's that going to wind up being? You're going to have a whole bunch of very quiet black people, and among white people too. All right. I mean, it'll be a very little traffic on that iPad. I mean, the iPad will be wondering what's going on. I'm not receiving, I'm not being used. You're not being used because we cut out the fat. That's why.
Yes.
And the theory is, when you make everything that you do constructive, always have that in mind. This thing, somebody's saying something to you. Get in the car. Let's go through something. Well, wait a minute. When we get where we're going, is that going to be a constructive trip? And if so, how? How is it going to be constructive? Now, if you can't tell me that, the trip is off.
Gotcha.
All right? That's the way it is. If you measure everything like that, if every person on the planet, right this minute, and I'm talking about not waiting, I'm talking about start doing this right this minute, because that's code. Start making everything, dividing everything into two categories, constructive, non-constructive.
Non-constructive, right.
I mean, the world would change overnight. Not overnight, in the next 5 minutes.
Yes.
I mean, that's a slam dunk. I mean, it would change for the better if everybody said, well, if it's not constructive, I don't want to be involved in it. If you can't show me in advance where this is going to have a constructive effect on the actions of people in everything that they do, directly and indirectly, I don't even want to hear it.
Gotcha.
Don't even talk about it, because it's non-constructive.
Non-constructive.
We don't need anything anymore that's non-constructive, period.
Brother Muko, thank you for calling in, and thank you for the fabulous work that you're doing with the Baltimore Care Unit. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller, also.
All righty. Okay, Mr. Fuller, this is a special time that we have reserved for you to speak about your book. Now, I know that many have bought your book, and I hope that many more buy your book, but I question, if you bought the book, are you reading the book? And are you producing justice or how to eliminate racism? Is there a cost involved? You mentioned just a few moments ago, bursting of the bombs in air, which is a part of the so-called national anthem. What is that? Glorifying killing? I don't know. Killing who and why? You learn this by reading the book, The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. Mr. Fuller, the floor is yours.
Yes, well, the textbook for victims of racism is what I have written, It's called the Compensatory Counter-Racist Code, and it's directed toward individual persons, because the main foundation title is the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. Now, this is strictly a concept, meaning it's something in my mind, and I'm trying to put it in the minds of other people. First of all, you start with a concept when you get ready to do anything. Exactly. You have an idea of what it is you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. And then you, backing up from the word concept, you go to the word in front of that, system. And so if you're going to have a concept that works, you have to have a system for working it. Now, what does a system consist of? It consists of another word that you back up to, and that's code. So you got code, system, concept. But then you got the other, the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. And what does that mean? Well, the united means you have this idea that justice should be produced and correctness. That's having balance between people and things. And justice is guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. And you are an individual person. You were born an individual person. Even if you're a twin, you're still an individual. You know, twins are not exactly alike. Why? Because it's two. So one is different from the other, even though they're twins. You say they're twins, they're exactly alike. No, they may appear exactly alike, but they're not, because it's two. Any two things are not exactly alike, because one is one, and the other one is one, all right? And compensatory means making up for what's missing. And what's missing is justice and correctness all over this planet as we speak now. We're not in balance with people. We're not in balance. People are not in balance with things, and we're throwing all the things and all the animals and everything else out of balance with each other. So everything is out of balance on account of people who are the most effective organisms for getting things done on this planet are out of balance with each other totally. I mean, you know, we're in conflict. We're not constructive at all. Even when we do something constructive, it's for the purpose of doing something non-constructive, in particular on the system of white supremacy. So that's what the book is about. For the victims of this system, meaning the non-white people of the planet, since the white supremacists and other white people who are not white supremacists certainly haven't shown a real interest in eliminating the thing that's really getting in the way mostly, and that is racism in the form of white supremacy. I've written a book that's addressed to the victims of it about what to do about it, to dismantle this system, because there's no way to run away from it. You have to actually dismantle it, just take it apart, and put something better in its place, and that better thing would be the thing that's missing. That's what compensation means. You compensate for something that's missing by putting whatever is missing where it should be. And so that thing that is missing is called justice, which is guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most. Now, up to now, you could get the book by going to Produce Justice. That's my website, producejustice.com. But the books right now have been suspended in their sales, yes, on account of some technicalities and some glitches that came up that should not have happened. But it will be available at the first, hopefully about the first of the month. It will come back up on that website. But right now, for about 2 weeks, maybe a little more, I've been informed that the books will not be available for about 2 weeks until about the 1st of August. But you can go to Produce Justice. Keep watching that website and until it comes up. But you can start looking roughly about 2 weeks from now, because there has been a disruption in the production of the book for various reasons, which I won't go into details about it, but it all has to do with the system itself. All right.
Okay. Wow, that's a bombshell to me. So right now you can.
Right now that site is not functional.
Right. Okay.
ProduceJustice.com for getting the book. But keep it in mind and keep this program in mind, because this is the only thing we'll have now up until then. TalkTameRadio.com.
Okay. In the remaining moments that we have for the first hour of the compensatory concept, you brought some clarity, at least to me, but it was like you explained concept. And it made me think of when I would go to auto shows, they would have concept cars on display for the people to look at. But then you brought out, to back that up, they had a system that helped produce what they call a code so that the cars could be made. Then you got specific, the United Independent Compensatory, and that brought forth the employment of a code, a system, and the concept. What? Making up for what?
What is missing.
What is missing, or for who? The victims of it. And then you explained why. That was just beautiful. Maybe it was more than a suggestion, but it made logical sense to me, and I really appreciate that. Okay, moving right along here. Let's see, Mr. Palmer, let me see if I can get this question is. And then we may have to go to the other side of the break on this. But he says, Mr. Fuller, if one of the reasons why the system of white supremacy feeds off its victims is because the victims fail to codify their thoughts, speech, and actions into compensatory equations of either a constructive result or non-constructive result. Mr. Fuller, is that true?
Absolutely. That's what this conversation we're having is all about. We need a code. That's the missing link. We've had slogans, some of the latest ones, and slogans are fine. I mean, of course, they give you direction. But not Black Lives Matter. That's a slogan. But you have to put some filling in that cake. You have to put some filling in that pie. You have to, you build your box and your title and whatnot, and that's fine. And the title's all right. We shall overcome. These are titles. But then you have to put in the details. Okay? That's what we haven't been doing. Okay, we shall overcome. By doing what? Because everything is about doing something. So you have to be very specific. And you just can't come up with another slogan saying, well, we'll do something by doing something. We got to do something. Somebody ought to do something. We'll come to 1 million meetings, and everybody will be poking holes in the air with their finger and saying, we need to do something. Okay, we. All right. We who? Okay, our elected officials. I'll give it that as an example.
Okay.
And say, well, we got elected officials. Well, they need to do something. See, now these are slogans, but these are not details. I mean, but we might be getting there, but we never get there. And then they'll say, well, we got the leaders who are not doing anything. Are you saying that, Mr. Jackson? And say, yeah, that's what I'm saying. And say, well, what do we do if they won't do what we want done? Well, we need to hold them accountable. That's another slogan. And by the way, I'll just say this on there. That's a slogan I never want to hear ever again, because I've heard it too much. We need to hold our leaders accountable. And I've always asked the questions for decades now. Hold them accountable. Well, what do you mean? Hold them by the big toe? Hold them by the pinky finger? Hold them by the ear? What are you talking about?
Okay.
Hold them accountable. Yeah, that's right. That's the solution.
Okay.
Everybody will say amen. Everybody will clap their hands and jump up and down. And hooray, we got the solution. Eureka.
Okay.
Hold our leaders accountable.
Excuse me, Mr. Fuller, and
Yes,
for those who think I'm interrupting, but we have to pause here. TalkTameRadio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. We'll see you in the next hour.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTameRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You've got the power. The world's greatest radio. Talktainmentradio.com. Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Again, hello, welcome to TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go, the world's greatest radio. You are now in touch with the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am the co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is radio the way it should be heard. I'm going to give you the phone number that you can get in contact with the show, and I'm going to repeat it slowly. 1-877-932-9766. That's the number you can access to get in touch with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. You can also watch the live broadcast of the Compensatory Concept. Go to YouTube, type in the word Talktainment, hit the space bar, type in the word radio, scroll down to Talktainment number 2 live on YouTube, and watch the live broadcast of the show. You can also hit the like button and subscribe button. We would, however, like for you to do this. Go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage. It was up on the screen here. But anyway, do that. Click Listen Live, where you can listen to the program live since we're on right now. We also have podcasts available for the Compensatory Concept. You can listen even to past shows on the podcast. And the replay of this show, I believe, is at 10 p.m. tonight. And you can do that. You can also go to Facebook.com/Talktainment to access information or access the program. We are talking about producing justice, and I'm going to address this, and I'm probably have to do it again. It is not my intention to cut Mr. Fuller off. We were up against the clock. The reason why I say that is because I get some calls or letters saying that I'm cutting him off. We had to do that. We don't like to do that. And many of you don't know, Mr. Fuller has asked me if he goes a little off topic or sideways to bring him back in. So this is not a deliberate act that I'm doing. I'm just doing what he suggested, and then radio has constraints. Now, for those of you who don't understand it, I can't help you. And hopefully it'll be the last time that I have to address that, but I probably won't. I'll even get a letter about this, and I can't tell you what I'm not going to tell you what I really think of that. But anyway, we go head on. Okay, Mr. Fuller, you were answering a question, and to continue into that question, this person was saying your emotions need to be attached to logic, and then you answered the question. Then he says, Mr. Fuller, how do victims of white supremacy attach their emotions to logic, and how do you create harmony with your emotions and with your logic?
Just stick to the concept of constructive, non-constructive. Follow the logic. See, people, there's all kind of noises going on around you, all kinds of sounds. People are moving around, doing things. Just look at what people are doing and listen to what people are saying, and always have in mind these things that I see people are doing right now. I'm looking at some people over across the street. They're doing something. This thing that they're doing, is it constructive or is it non-constructive? This gives you instant focus, right quick. You can tell. I mean, something will tell you whether it's constructive or non-constructive by the effects that it's having. All right? If you hear somebody talking, if you're at a meeting, or if you're riding a bus and you're listening to a conversation, I mean, somebody's talking like people do on buses. They talk on their phones to someone, and you can hear it. I mean, because they're talking loud, many people do, and whatnot, and you just ask yourself, this that I'm hearing, am I gaining anything out of listening to this that is of constructive value? And if so, what is it that I'm learning that is of constructive value? Or what is it that I'm not learning that is of constructive value? Is it a constructive conversation from what I'm hearing? Should this conversation be taking place? If you're talking about the objective being producing something that is constructive. Because like I said previously on this program this morning, everything is in one of two categories with a big line between the two. Constructive on one side, non-constructive on the other side. And that's everything. That's every move that a person makes, every minute of every day. Every step that you take is going to have a constructive effect or a non-constructive effect. Because wherever you're going, when you find to take a number of steps, it's either going to result in something constructive or something non-constructive. And so a question may be raised, and should be, how can you tell the difference? You can tell the difference by the effects. All right? Now, you're riding around with your buddy, and you see that lady just got out of her car and left her keys in the ignition over that gas station, and you're sitting there, and your buddy says, I'm going to drive over there, and I want you to jump out, and I want you to make off with that car. All right? Instantly, you should have in your mind, is this going to have a constructive result, or is this going to get me in some trouble that I don't ever want to be in? And it's going to stick with me the rest of my days that I'm on this planet. Is this a smart move? Is this one of the smartest moves I ever made in the history of my entire existence? Because when you jump out of that car, if you act on what he just said, it's either going to have a constructive result or a non-constructive result. And the record has shown that for the most part, it has a non-constructive result. Now, you suddenly find yourself in that car and you've taken off, all right? And your buddy is following behind you. I mean, all full of glee. Because you got a brand new car now that you can make some kind of deal with, maybe with some undercover dealer that he knows about, and get cash money. And so you all made out. Okay? Or maybe you don't make that next right, and somebody runs into you in that car, and you're just able to hobble away. Now, you didn't get the car, and now you got a broken ankle that you're going to have to explain to somebody why you got it. And your buddy, seeing what happened, he zooms past, and he says, well, there ain't no help that I can do here, and keeps going. Now, you should have been thinking about whether or not it was a constructive suggestion or not before you made your move, before you jumped out of the car just because he said so. Somewhere right now that's happening. And somewhere right now, a whole bunch of trouble is going to come to the people involved and to the extended people involved, because all of us have connections. There's a mother somewhere, or somebody who's trying to be one, who is going to get a message that, her son is in trouble. He's in the hospital with a broken ankle under police protection or guidance or supervision. And she's got to take off from work and go and see about it. See, this multiplies all based on what? Your buddy having an idea or a plan for you, but he couldn't tell you what the result of the plan was going to be ultimately. It was just a whim. Now, what's the lesson in this? Too many of us do things without thinking about the consequences long term. And that's almost a definition, and I've said this for many years, of that N word. A person who can think about what's going on right this minute, but not thinking about Act 2. We're pretty good at Act 1. Black people are great actors, and we move fast sometimes, all right, when we really want to. And we can take care of Act 1 pretty good, all right? That's the initial action. All right, our record shows this. We're real good to act quickly on something. But Act 2 gets real involved. Now, after you did that, now what? What was the result? See, we don't think about results. We just think about what we think the initial results are going to be.
Yes, sir.
Which is all results.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't think about that second result, the third result, the fourth result. That chain reaction.
Okay.
That might stick with you for the rest of your days and most likely will.
Could very well be. Mr. Fuller, a lot of people have written me and have also told me, and I know you don't particularly care about this, but they like to hear your stories. They often refer to your time in the service. I remember a couple of weeks ago, one of the callers asked you if you've ever been called the N-word and how would you handle it. They love to hear your story or the stories that you knew about the Tulsa race riots. One of the questions that came up was, and you touched on this about 2 or 3 weeks ago, was about the violence or the history of East St. Louis, Illinois, and you began to talk about that, and it was suggested that whatever knowledge that you have about that, could you explain or talk about the racial history of East St. Louis, Illinois? That is not, by the way, in the history books.
Well, the only thing I said about it was what I know, and that is that a lot of things have happened there. I know I've heard that, but I never heard the details. That's just it. I don't have any information. And I'm thinking about all the information that I don't have. All the information I've, just little tidbits of this, that, and the other. And I got to thinking about the entire history. See, history is not known anyway. All histories are false. I don't care how hard you work at trying to research something. You can't get it. You can't get most of it. It's not possible to get most of it, because most of it, even by people who were there, won't be remembered the way that it actually was. You start getting distortions right from the beginning. So all of history is distorted. And what history we have in the books, no matter how thick the book is, it doesn't even scratch the surface of all of the things that really happened. I mean, history is not recorded. There's no record, no accurate record of anybody's history. None. I don't care who it is. Because there's no way for people to know everything that was going on at that time and everything that was involved. There's always more that is unknown than is known.
Okay.
So in answer to that question, I don't know anything about what happened in East St. Louis, except I heard enough to believe that a whole ocean of things happened. Not only in East St. Louis, but everywhere, really, on this racial front.
Yes.
That will never be known by anybody, because it was never recorded by anybody.
Okay. Okay, 1-877-932-9766 is the number that you would call if you'd like to get in contact with Mr. Fuller and ask questions. Let's do this. TalkTameRadio.com is a 24/7, no-charge, worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here's one that I'm going to share with you. It premieres every other Tuesday here on TalkTameRadio.com, and it is Talking Sports with Mr. Bobby. And last night, Tuesday, we had a very good and lively discussion we had a relationship specialist in, and she went on to talk about relationships, one man, one woman, et cetera. And then we combined that with relationships in sports. Very interesting discussion, and even off air, I got quite a few calls and acknowledgments about the lady that did that. But talking sports with Mr. Bobby and all the other shows that are listed on the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage are exclusive to TalkTainmentRadio.com. Host and all kind of information. TalkTainmentRadio.com. All you have to do, click on programs for the scheduled times. TalkTainment Radio, that's radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby, and I am the co-host of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. And we've been all over, or Mr. Fuller has been all over, the question about justice. What are you doing to produce justice? Or are you just talking just to be talking? And Mr. Fuller has tried or has addressed that issue in a compensatory way. Some people may not particularly like it, but as a caller called me this morning on the way to the studio, I said, Mr. Fuller is going to stay in this lane right here, and he's not going to vary from it. That's just the way it is. Phone calls here, 1-877-932-9766. Here is a Gmail. It says, Mr. Fuller, based on my observation, the white supremacists collectively are saying things like, number one, blacks lack moral character. Number two, the problem with blacks is that they lack a father in the household. Number three, blacks don't take responsibility for their actions and always blaming the white man. Number four, the liberals/Democrats are the problem. Mr. Fuller, after all this, all the white supremacists say these things, they then throw in statistics to justify their talking points. Can you, Mr. Fuller, please break down these talking points and what's the correct way to respond to them? Thank you.
Well, the first thing is, according to the code, if anybody says anything about you or someone else, the first thing you want to know before you proceed is it true? I'm going to always start with the truth, no matter what it is. You want to know, is it true? So what was the first thing on that list?
It says blacks lack moral character.
Okay. Well, that calls for a question, too.
Yeah, what is moral character?
What is moral character? See, always pay attention to the words. When somebody accuses, if you're being accused of something, you want to know what the words mean.
Yes, sir.
Not just one or two words. You want to know what each one of those words mean. And you'd start with the heaviest words, you might say, the most important words, moral character. So right away, you have a question. What is, since it's something that I lack and that I should have, and that thing that I lack is called, quote, unquote, moral character, first thing I want to know is, what is moral character? And do not help the person with the answer. See, so I can't answer that question.
Okay.
Because I don't, see, but if the question was asked of me, I would immediately go into the code mode, and the code mode requires me to ask, what does that term that you use, sir or ma'am, that term moral character, what is it?
Okay.
And sit back and wait for an in-depth answer, and not just some type of, brush-off answer. You can tell when you think that you don't have an answer. If you think you don't have an answer, you don't have an answer. So therefore, you ask another question, what is character? What is moral? What does a person do in order to be a moral character? What is it? What's that complete list? Not an incomplete list, a thorough list of all the things you don't do in order to have, quote, unquote, moral character. And who invented, quote, unquote, moral character?
Okay.
Who set the standard for it and why? And does the person who set that standard, does that person have, quote, unquote, moral character?
So you always question.
You might have about 50 questions.
Okay.
Just on those two terms alone.
Okay.
Before you even move into a discussion about it in depth.
Okay.
You got some questions.
All right.
That you want answered.
Question number 2. The problem with blacks is that they lack a father in the household.
They lack a father. Okay, a father in the household. Okay, let's deal with father. Let's deal with household.
Okay.
And what does a father do? What qualifies a person to be a father? So you got questions right out the gate on that one. What qualifies a person to be a father?
In the household.
Yeah, because you want to get to the truth. See, you're still searching for truth now. Before you get into the details of other aspects, you just want to know, do black people lack a father in the household? Now, my answer to that, according to the code, would be, well, depending on what you call household, and depends on what you call a father, and my initial reaction is my understanding of father in the household is that, you lack a black father in a so-called household. You got a white one, whether you believe it or not, or whether, you're looking around the room and looking, in room to room, and you don't see anybody white in there, and you say, well, I don't have a white father in this household. Yes, you do. Under the system of white supremacy, you got a father in that household if you're black on this planet.
Yes.
Yes, and that father is white.
Right.
He's an illegitimate father. Why? Because he runs that household, that's why.
Okay.
That's the answer to that. Black. You don't have a black father in that household. You got that correct. You don't have a black father anywhere on the planet.
Wow.
Black people, males, are not qualified to be fathers in the system of white supremacy.
Okay.
Why? We're not in charge of nothing, that's why.
Okay, let me pause on the questions and take this phone call. Caller, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead.
Yes. Hey, how you doing, Mr. Fuller? How you doing, Mr. Bobby?
Go ahead, sir. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Fuller, you stated in the past that one should only study history to learn from the mistakes. You've lived a long life, and you've contributed and helped a lot of people. But I would ask you, what have you learned from, what mistakes do you think you've made in your life, and what lessons have you learned from them?
Well, I answer that in the code book, and I'll say that, I don't say it directly, individually, but it covers me. My entire existence has been a mistake as far as my performance is concerned. Why? According to the requirements of the Compensatory Code, I was born, according to logic, to solve problems. And the biggest problem on the planet is the race problem, which means I was born with that assignment. And so far, I have failed. So that means everything I've done so far that was supposed to solve the problem for which I was born assigned to solve hasn't been solved, which means everything that I have done so far has been, by the evidence, a mistake. Why? Because the problem hasn't been solved. That's why. See, counter-racist science is rough. I mean, I can't feed myself sugar, all right, on what my assignment is. Codification. When you start talking about getting rid of racism, it doesn't spare anybody's feelings. The fact is, I'm supposed to be getting rid of racism and have gotten rid of it in all the time that I have been given to be here and be aware of it. All right, the minute that I became aware of it, my assignment was to get rid of it. Why? Because it's got to be gotten rid of if you're going to make anything work. Otherwise, like it says in the textbook, everything I've done has been a wasted time. So you either do the job or not. It's like, to use the analogy of a football game, and I sometimes use this, you don't get paid for yardage. You don't get paid for trying. In other words, however, individual football players do get paid for trying. But when you look at the entire purpose of a football game, the team itself is supposed to win the game.
That's right.
The purpose.
That's right.
All right. And anything less than that It's just a whole lot of exercise. So all that Fuller has been doing so far, with all the time he's been given on this planet, and I'm in my 80s now, that's been wasted time. According to what? According to the code. Why is it wasted time? Because you haven't accomplished your task. That's why, Fuller. And if you leave here without doing that, without solving the race problem, you didn't carry out your assignment. Now, a lot of people say, man, that's rough. You better believe it is. But we're not going by how rough something is. Lots of things are rough. And solving the race problem is rough. But we can't use excuses. Codification is not about excuses.
All righty.
And not doing the job is an excuse.
Thank you for your call, caller. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Okay, going back before we go to the break to what we were talking about, the question was, based on my observations, the white supremacists collectively are saying things like, this comes from Mr. Johnson. The third thing he says that he wants you to address, Mr. Fuller, is he said that blacks don't take responsibility for their actions and always blaming the white man.
Mm-hmm. True. And those that do that, and I do that, I'm doing it. That's my responsibility. See, now that's one that I can go straight to, because I understand that. Blacks do not take responsibility and always blame the white man. If you mean by white man, you mean the white supremacists, you better believe it. I'm in their prison. I was born in their prison. I'm not responsible for the prison, because I'm not responsible for racism.
But you in the prison.
But I'm in the prison. So I can't take responsibility for the prison that I didn't build. I can take responsibility for not trying to dismantle this prison that I'm not supposed to be in the first place. So I'll have to ask, like I said, if I was faced with that charge, Fuller, you did not take responsibility as a black person. You know, or what else did they say in it? In that statement, blacks do not take responsibility and always blame.
Yeah, their actions and always are blaming the white man.
Yes, my actions are a result of you, the white supremacists. See, I don't use the term white man. That's too broad.
Yeah.
I say white supremacists.
Yeah, that's specific.
That's a special species.
Yes.
Yeah, all of my actions are going to be attributed to you. Why? Because you are my illegitimate father. That's why.
Yeah, you did
it. Taught me everything that I know.
Okay.
And mostly to be a gangster, to be a thug, to be a thief, to be a robber, to beat up on females. I learned all that from you.
Because that's what you do.
I haven't had any other teacher but you.
Yeah. Okay, and fourth, he says, the liberal/Democrats are the problem.
Now, that gets into the definition thing.
Okay.
All right. I'd have to ask exhaustively.
What is
a liberal?
I knew that.
And what is a liberal Democrat?
I knew that was coming.
And then what is a Democrat? All right. You know, we got to talk for about 2 hours on that so I can get that straight in my head. Because the white supremacists always throw out words without definition.
Yes.
So you want those definitions before you start talking about anything. Otherwise, you just go around in that circle that he wants you to go around in. You'll be out there talking about I'm defending liberals, I'm a liberal and all, and you haven't even come to the conclusion of what a liberal does and what a liberal doesn't do. It comes down to what people do. Everything is about what people do, not just some label. So when you put a label on somebody, okay, you say you're liberal. Well, what does a liberal do in all areas of activity? And give me the list of things that a liberal does, and give me the list of the things that a liberal doesn't do.
Okay. We got to hold it there for this break here. Talktainmentradio.com. We go where you go. Check us out on 94.1 WGRN. Podcasts are available. Download the Talktainmentradio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. Stay right there. We will have more of your phone calls and more of your fabulous Gmails as we have Mr. Fuller address these. All that and more coming up next.
Welcome to the 6th Annual Cultural Wall Music Festival as we celebrate the Harlem Renaissance of the East Side on Saturday, July 14th and 15th at 91 Jefferson Avenue from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. featuring the Novo Arts Group, Mojo Flow, Jazz Patrol 2.0, and the Urban Jazz Coalition. And the Praise in the Park on Sunday from 2 to 8 p.m. with the Four Mints, Milton Ruffin featuring Quan Howe. You don't want to miss the 6th Annual Cultural Wall Music Festival. For more information, call 614-253-1880. Brought to you by University East Hospital, State Auto Insurance, the Columbus Communicator, Who's Who Columbus, Making a Difference Inc., and Columbus City Park and Rec, the United Way of Central Ohio, free parking at Columbus State and State Auto. Celebrating the history of the East Side, the 6th Annual Cultural Wall Music Festival, Saturday, July 14th and 15th at 91 Jefferson Avenue from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. For more information, call 614-253-1880.
Are you ready for a high school that allows you to work at a place that is right for you? Are you ready to earn a certification in healthcare, business, or manufacturing while achieving your high school diploma? Then you are ready for Life Skills High School, a free public school option for high school students 16 to 21 years old. Learn more about your free high school educational options at lifeskillshs.org or call them at 1-800-888-7992. Life Skills High School, education that fits your life.
If you or someone you know is abusing drugs and or alcohol and want to stop the abuse, contact APDS at 1409 East Livingston Avenue. Office hours are 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily and 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday. APDS is certified by the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services and primarily funded through the Adam H. Board. Fees are based on your income and Medicaid is always accepted. For more information, call 614-253-4448.
McGruff the Crime Dog here. Let's hear from an identity thief.
Identities are easy to catch online. I send people an official-looking email pretending to be their bank or credit card company and ask them to confirm their personal information. Books them every time.
Safeguard your personal information on the phone, online, and especially at home, because half of identity theft occurs by someone you think you know. Keep your identity to yourself and take a bite out of crime. Learn more from the National Crime Prevention Council at ncpc.org.
A message from this station, the U.S. Department of Justice, Crime Prevention Coalition of America, and the National Crime Prevention Council.
Hey, wake up. You can't dream your way into college. There are actual steps you need to take, steps that go beyond just getting good grades. So if you're serious about college, visit knowhowtogo.org today. Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
This is Al Edmondson, owner of a Cutter Brother Rest Barbershop. I'm calling on all barbers and beauticians. It's time for us to unite as one. We can serve our communities better together. Join the Ohio Black Barber Beauty Network. For more information, visit www.obbn.org or call 614-427-3226 to get more information. Be the change that you want to see in your community. Join our network.
We thank you for your emails and your feedback. And we are working very hard for you. We have supported the Compensatory Code since 1975. We believe that it is the only system of thought, speech, and action that enables us to move in the correct direction to work toward the production of justice. But right now, we need your help. If we're going to continue the Compensatory Concept show each week, we need your support. Now, we thank you and deeply appreciate what you've already donated. Please help us to continue to get the Compensatory Code system of thought, speech, and action out. Please donate today. Go to TalkTainmentRadio.com and hit the yellow donate button on the front page. Donate today. We appreciate any amount that you can give. We thank you so much.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. Go ahead. Make my day.
You got the power.
TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I'm the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. And if you would like to get in contact with the show, you can by calling 1-877-932-9766. I think we have 2 on the line, and we have a lot more information and a lot more show. So let me go to the caller first. Okay, caller, you are on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
Absolutely. My name is Judah. I'm in Montgomery, Alabama, and I'm a security guard. I work at the Legacy Museum. It's a museum that's it's kind of like commemorating and showing you what happened with all the lynchings and what happened in Alabama, the South.
Mm-hmm.
But my question is, when the white supremacists, they come into the museum, and it's funny because you see more white supremacists than you almost see people of color. And why do the white supremacists, when they come in and they visit the museum, they come out crying and, you know, they come out sad and they, you know, some even say, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, have a nice day. Mm-hmm. And you even have those white supremacists that come in and they even, like, I'm a security guard. I work there, and I have one white supremacist that come up to me and say, you know, what does this mean? And, like, what is all this? As if, like, we don't know nothing. Like, we're just working here. And, like, hey, I can go ask this guy this. He doesn't even know what this picture of this lynching is about. Or, But my question is, like, why do the white supremacists come out crying? And,
okay, good. All right.
And why do more white supremacists visit than people of color? You see more white supremacists than you do.
Okay.
Well, I won't say that. It's a fair number, but a lot of white supremacists visit that museum.
Okay, thank you for your call. Mr. Fuller, would you address that, please?
Well, my answer is, according to the code, I don't know. You're giving me information. I didn't know this was happening. So my answer is truthful. I don't know why that is. I mean, they come out crying and
apologizing.
Now that you say it, I think I can understand it, but I'm not sure. But I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because there is a feeling of guilt, but I can't say that. See, codification is about being exact. So the best way to find out why they're crying is probably to ask them if they're willing to talk to you, and if they open the conversation, because, you know, you have to go by the rules of what a security guard is supposed to do, all right? But if they allow you to ask that type of question, well, why are you crying, all right? And then wait for the answer. And never argue about the answer that you get. When you ask a question, just listen to the answer and put that answer in your storage, your brain, all right? And say, that's the answer I got. And remember that answer, all right? Because that is the best answer you can possibly get. Even if they are not telling the truth, that's still the best answer you can possibly get. Because then you know that they'll give you an answer that's not true, or you think is not true, so that's something for you to think about. But the best source of getting that answer is not another non-white person or not another white person. It is the white person who is doing the crime.
Yeah.
All right?
Okay.
And once they're willing to talk to you while they're crying, you can ask that question.
Okay.
Because that will be very revealing. All right? And you can pass that on to the people on the air, too. You can tell people, well, I got this right from them. You know, I asked him why he was crying.
Okay.
I asked that lady why she was crying.
Gotcha.
And she told me this. And then you just relate it. Just like she said it.
Just
word for word.
Just like she said it. Okay. What line am I on? Line number what? 2? Oh, 3? Okay. Line number 3, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
I'd like to make a comment because Mr. Fuller, he mostly answers all the questions all the time. The white supremacists come out of the museum crying because they missed those days when they were lynching and castrating people in the streets and taking their children and playing music. They missed those days. Now listen, my good human beings. They came, they saw, they conquered, they exterminated. Mr. Einstein said, in the final analysis, force and violence rule. Now, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and those other Negro towns were burned and black people were slaughtered because they do not want black people to be competitive with them in this country. They are never going to allow black people to be competitive with them in this country. This is why they keep teaching their children hate. They don't want to teach their children black history. White supremacists get old and die like everybody else. They must replace them. That's why they are against abortion. They telling the white woman, we got to have some more race soldiers. You can't stop them. You got to keep them coming. That's why they are against abortion. Now, people, if you can get out of here, give it some serious thought. These psychopaths are going to exterminate us. That's why they burn them black towns. They are not going to allow us to compete with them. Marcus Garvey had the only answer for us in the 1920s. Garvey said, you go back, reclaim Africa, and it was deep then. He said, you go back and reclaim Africa for you and the African.
Okay, my
Garvey
brother.
said in the 1920s.
All right.
If we did not do that,
okay,
they was going to do away with us here, and then they was going to do away with the Africans.
Okay,
and
my
it is
brother.
going down exactly as Garvey said.
Thank you, my
These
brother.
people,
Appreciate
they're
your call,
never
man.
gonna allow-
All righty. That's the extermination man, affectionately called. Well, he is called anyway. He calls in regularly. Extermination man. Mr. Fuller, before we go to your book, here's a question. It was concerning East St. Louis, Illinois, and your response. And the question was, why did you, Mr. Fuller, brush off the East St. Louis question?
Because years ago, I heard that a lot of terrible things happened in East St. Louis back in the 1920s and 30s. And I just mentioned that because it just happened to cross my mind. But I could pick any city, Chicago, Lawrence, Kansas. I'm quite sure something happened in every place where someone showed up with skin color among white people, and whatever happened was something that should not have happened. Something terrible happened, because terrible things happen anytime white and non-white interact with each other. Terrible things happen in one form or another, in one area of activity or another, or in all areas of activity collectively.
Mm-hmm.
That's what white supremacy does.
Yes.
I mean, it makes terrible things happen. By terrible, I mean things happening that shouldn't happen.
Right.
That's what I mean. Anything that happens that shouldn't happen.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay.
Any kind of mistreatment of people.
Mm-hmm.
That's terrible.
Now, when you mention...
Okay. So when I mention East St. Louis, is because reading the old Negro newspapers back, it's just something that crossed my mind.
Yes, sir.
That, East St. Louis would come up maybe 2 or 3 times. But that was just in the paper that I happened to look at. I could look at hundreds of papers printed in different places at different times, and I would see the same thing happening in other places.
Exactly.
Or worse, that ever happened in East St. Louis.
Exactly.
See, so I don't want this focus to be on East St. Louis.
Right.
You take the Congo and whatnot. That story, I have mentioned that. And from the little bit that I have heard about King Leopold in the Congo, I think that maybe about 5%, and I'm just throwing out a figure, of what really happened was known.
Yes.
Or made known.
Yes.
Or put into some type of recording.
Mm-hmm.
But all the things that happened that should not have happened under King Leopold and even after him and before him, I think that there are millions of things on a day-to-day basis that happen to people
and are still going
that
on.
were never recorded and never will be recorded because all of the people who could have recorded it are now gone.
Yes. Before we take this phone call, quickly, can you just explain just a little bit, because we do have people on the line, of the situation concerning your publication, your book?
The publication is down right now. You usually go to producejustice.com, and after the next 2 weeks, you can start checking that website again.
2 weeks?
At least 2 weeks.
Okay.
And that means about somewhere around the first week of August, I would say roughly, would be the best time to check.
So as we speak right now, the book is not available.
The book is not available at all. And I hope that's not a signal to people who have the book to go online and try to sell the book.
Thank you for saying that.
Yes, for $200, $75, and that, that's exploiting people.
Yes.
I mean, the book, I admit, because I had to charge the fees that I'm charging, which is pretty high, according to me. I have said down through the years, I mean, I would have reservations about buying my own book at that price that's being charged. But that's what I'm having to charge in order to stay, to get the word out here.
Yes.
I'm sort of like just a one-person operation. I don't have any financial backers and all like that. See, so that's the only thing, that I have to deal with. But also I have to deal with seeing to it that the book is in people's hands, which I'm trying to expand that. And one way to do that is to get the cost down, all right? And I haven't been able to do that. And now I'm in a situation now, because some glitches came up recently, where I've had to suspend having the book available.
Wow.
All right? But I'm working on this. I have people working on it to get the book back online at producejustice.com. That's the place to go.
Okay.
Other than one or two bookstores, and it's just one or two, that the book may be available, even when it is available. It's just one or two black bookstores. It's not in the regular bookstores.
Okay.
You have to go to producejustice.com.
All righty.
It won't be available for, I'll say, outside of 2 weeks.
Okay. 1-877-932-9766 is the number you can call. Let's go to the phone lines. Okay, caller, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Hello, can you
Yes,
hear me?
what is your question?
Yeah, my question is, good morning, Mr. Fuller, Mr. Bobby. I wanted to ask that if we're moving in the right direction, that I want to get it straight. Mr. Fuller, are you saying that justice in a world where we're being mistreated is a solution for the people of color?
Justice is a solution to all people's problems that are between people. Justice is about people. Correctness is another word. That's about people and things like the weather, the elements of food, clothing, shelter. That's doing the correct thing. All right.
So you're saying
and even animals and whatnot. But justice just pertains to people, and it's just two elements to it: guaranteeing that no person, not even for 5 minutes, on a job or anywhere, is mistreated. You got to do that. You can't mistreat anybody and have justice. And the other part is guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help.
Right. And Mr. Fuller, what I want to say is that since we're in their communication system that we're using to communicate with right now, and we're using words, their words, and now justice, like anything else, once these words hit our brains, it looks like these words come alive. Like the word water. Now you can project the image of water without seeing water now. That's how words works. That's how this program that we're using right now, that's how it works. But what I want to say is that why aren't we projecting stronger images about ourselves? Because, see, now we're saying that the white supremacists are smarter and all this other stuff. We're using words. We're projecting who they are. Well, we know this because we're playing our role and they're playing their role. We're in their communication system. So what I'm saying, why don't we reverse it? And since the tactics in war change, why don't we project positive images of blacks on your cartoons? Why don't you just change it and make it straight positive? Nothing derogatory. Stop saying white folks are smarter and better because you're projecting that image in a word program.
Okay.
All it does is validate the prison.
Okay, Mr. Fuller?
Well, the answer to that is you have to start with the truth. See, I'm walking around in a prison. I was born in a prison. Now, I can very easily say, and a lot of poets have done that. In fact, when I was in the 8th grade, my 8th grade teacher said, "Stone walls do not a prison make." nor iron bars a cage. If I have freedom in my soul, or something like that. I don't remember the rest of it. But
you're communicating using their system of communication is what I'm saying.
Caller, you're not letting Mr. Fuller answer the question, though.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm saying these words motivated me to think that stone walls do, iron bars do make a prison. Why? Because I think that's why the white supremacists put people behind stone walls and behind iron bars, because they know that it works. Now, I can walk around in that prison and say, I am not in prison. That's something somebody made up. I ain't in prison. I mean, I'm free. I can go any place I want to. I can do what I want to. Nobody tells me what to do. I've heard some black people say that. And I looked at them, and, like, if you want to use one analogy, there's a sort of a joke that's not a joke by Richard Pryor, talking about in one of his skits. He says about the guy who's drinking out of a whiskey bottle on the street, and he's an older black guy, and he's talking to a younger black person, and he says, boy, you scared of the white man. I ain't scared of him. I know how to handle him. That's why I'm where I am today. Okay, and where he was standing on the street drinking whiskey and staggering around. So, yeah, that's a world which we have adopted, by the way. Many of us have adopted that position. I mean, we get drunk, we get high and whatnot, and we say reality ain't reality. And in a way of speaking, in our minds, is not. I mean, if you're high on cocaine, I mean, from what people tell me, that's a whole world. You have invented a whole new world that you are now in. You are no longer in the world that you were in before. You have left that behind for a few minutes at least while you're high on that cocaine. That's what I've been told.
Mr. Fuller, your communication system that you're using to express yourself with and the one I'm using to listen with is not ours. And so what I'm saying is that our world is defined through this system that we're using to communicate with. It doesn't mean that that world is right. It just means that the tactics change on how you're going to break out of that prison. See, the prison is not walls. The prison is you. We're projecting exactly the communication that we need to project. We're playing our roles out. Because the system that we have in us, we just think it's ABCs. It's just poetry, like you said. No, it's way better. It's high-tech, highly advanced. And they've been after us, people, like me and you, to think that we're less than nothing. But actually, you're more valuable communicating with yourself without this system than you are with it.
All right.
So as long as they keep it in us, Mr. Fuller, we're going to project what they want. We have to project different images.
All right. I got to cut that off. We got to move on. But thank you for your inquiry. Mr. Fuller, you want to comment on the last one before we move on?
Yes, I'll just make this comment. That comes under BGQ. Now, if he says that, all I'm saying is we need a code for everything that we do and everything that we say. Precision code that will lead us toward where I think we need to go. Now, everything that I'm saying may be in error. So that should be examined. So if everything that I'm saying is in error, or most things, or some things, those errors should be corrected. I mean, because error is error. What is an error? It means you're trying to do something and you're not getting it done. Okay? So evidently I am making errors because it hasn't been done. We haven't eliminated racism. So if anybody can think of any formula, that's what codification is about. It's not restricted to Neely Fuller and what he says. It's about getting things done. So if anybody can come up with a formula for doing things, because it comes down to what you do, all right? Doing and not doing. That's all it is, because that's what the white supremacists, that's their formula. They do things and they don't do things. There are certain things they do and certain things they ain't going to do in order to keep their system going, as long as they want to keep it going. And when they don't do these things, or when they do these things, their system works. Now, what we need is a counter system, and that's what I'm trying to invent. I haven't done it.
Yes.
All right? But anybody who has an idea of how to get that done, I say, hey, put it in the implementation. I'll listen to it. But it comes down to what do I do? What do I say? What are the things I don't say? And see if it works.
Okay. Let me take this last call. Okay, caller, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Quickly, go ahead with your question.
Mr. Fuller, in your book, you stated that the racist man and racist woman are directly and indirectly responsible for all the problems of the non-white victims, of their non-white victims. You further stated that the reason why they're responsible is because they dominate and mistreat all non-white people on a global scale in all 9 areas of people activity. You said they are economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. During radio broadcasts, you have strongly encouraged black females to adopt a zero tolerance, we can never be together again codified policy if a black male were to strike them just one time. You say the suggestion is based on logic, justice, and correctness. Within that same framework and context, do you also suggest that the victims of racism adopt the same zero tolerance, we can never be together again policy in reference to racist man and racist woman, considering the countless numbers of war crimes committed against them in the past, present, and foreseeable future? If you say yes, why? If you say no, why? Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Fuller?
Oh, I didn't get the gist of the question. I mean, that's my fault. I couldn't follow the. I didn't get the question in my mind.
Okay. In the remaining moment, caller, are you still there? Caller, are you still there? Okay. I guess the caller's not there. Caller, if you're still listening, Mr. Fuller, since you hung up, Mr. Fuller could not get all of your question to properly address it. That's not a cop-out. He just didn't hear it all. It was kind of extensive. And that is one of the things that we try to do is, or emphasize that when you call in, make your questions kind of short. No, just make them short and specific so that he can focus in on what you want to be answered. When you do the multiple thing, it makes it a little difficult to follow. So now some people might say, well, you're copping out. No, it's just that your question was sort of lengthy and it could not be, Mr. Fuller felt that he could not properly address it because he didn't hear it. He didn't hear it. So
well, I heard what was being said, but I couldn't collate it, and that's my fault. See, okay. I could not collate what was being said in the form of a question so that I can answer the question directly. Because I try to slam dunk my answers. In other words, like you say in basketball, I don't dribble down the court. I try to give a quick answer that's right on point and that is complete. Nothing hanging over. Nothing that's going to call for another question on it.
Okay.
I mean, I try to do that, make everything concise.
Okay, we got 2 minutes. Okay, go ahead, caller. Very quick.
Okay. Do you suggest that the victims of racism adopt the same type of zero tolerance, we can never be together again, codified policy toward a racist man and a racist woman, the same way he has suggested that black females have that same type of policy in reference to black males?
Okay. Thank you for calling back. Quickly, Mr. Fuller.
Well, that's broad because, see, I was talking about one specific thing, and that is a black male striking physically a black female.
Okay. We got to leave it there. I'm sorry. We got to leave it there. TalkTainmentradio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. We'll try to do better next time. We'll see you next week.